All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our June 4th GPC meeting. I would like to note that all of council is here with the exception of Councillor Hoosloot, and we have Jeff Dyke away today, and Miss Nancy Jomajan will be joining us online. Can you hear us, Nancy?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Councillor Bernie.
Welcome, and I hope you feel better soon. We'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the homeland of the many diverse First Nations and Métis people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. Now we're going to move to celebrating success, and of course one big success that everyone is talking about is our Oilers. So congrats to our Oilers, and I have to say that as Canadians, many of us may not agree, but I think we can all agree that it's about time Lord Stanley's Cup came home to Canada. So go Oilers, and credit to all of those who are brave enough to cheer for them who don't normally cheer for them, but you're cheering for a Canadian team. Let's bring it home. So with that, we will go to the adoption of the agenda, and I will look to Councillor Wiedemann. Would you like to put that on the floor?
Yeah, I'll like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I guess I should ask if there's any additions or deletions first. Looking around, seeing none.
Good morning, committee members and councillors. Administration has no request for addition or deletions at this time.
All right, thank you very much. With that, I will call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And we will look to the adoption of the minutes. Can I look to you, Councillor Couture-Johnson, please?
That the May 21st, 2021 minutes be adopted. Or no, that's not. Okay, just hang on. The June 4th minutes be adopted as presented.
No, it was, I'll just read it. That the May 21st, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be adopted as presented. So do we have any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And we're 2 minutes early, but I see that we have someone in the audience we'll start public input, if that's all right. And this morning we have Janet Patriquin. Did I pronounce that correctly? Patriquin. Right? Well, I think I messed that up pretty good. But if you would please come forward, we would like to hear from you, and just depress the button there and speak your name and where you're from and carry on. No, not at all.
Button here, there. Good morning, Madam Chair and Council. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this morning. I am Janet Patriquin. I am the Assistant Farmers Advocate for Alberta with the Farmers and Property Rights Advocate Office with Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation. And I'm here today to speak on behalf of Mr. Bert Brooks regarding his land access that's been blocked due to a bridge replacement that is now too narrow to accommodate his farm equipment. I think you guys are quite familiar with the issue. It came up at the May 21st council meeting. We have been working with Jody and Robert trying to find some solutions. And I guess it kind of, it came up at the last meeting that council's wish was to not pursue any, putting any dollars towards a resolution to this. So I would just like to provide a little bit of context around the issue that possibly you guys are not aware of. So proper landowner consultation was not done for this project. Mr. Brooks was never consulted regarding the bridge replacement. The county has claimed that they checked land titles for an access agreement and there was nothing registered on title. But a conversation with Mr. Brooks as a directly affected party would have yielded the information needed to not be in this situation we're in right now. The county did consult with the only landowner with a residence on the other side of the bridge. and regarding the reducing the width, and it was sufficient for his passenger vehicles. The neighbor would likely have expected the county to have a conversation with Mr. Brooks on his use of the bridge and equipment requirements. Therefore, it really wouldn't have been the neighbor's responsibility to speak on behalf of Mr. Brooks or address the use of the bridge on his behalf. Also, discussions were around the county's response to spending a large amount of capital for one resident to have access, and it was reiterated to me that the county has to provide access to everyone for their property. Mr. Brooks had access to his property across the bridge, along with a gentleman's agreement with the neighbor through his property. They didn't feel that there was a need with their relationship to formalize this agreement. It had worked fine for all the previous years, and it was treated between the two parties as a crop lease agreement, very similar to any kind of a land rental agreement that is not necessarily registered on title, but between the two parties. So now, due to the county's decision to narrow the bridge, his access has been removed, his only access, and we have, through Robert and Jody, looked at any other avenue to get to that 60-acre parcel, and there is no other solution. So Mr. Brooks is now left with a segregated parcel of land with no access. He's not been able to farm this land for the second year in a row, and this is all due to the bridge construction. Mr. Brooks now has crop losses on approximately 60 acres for 2 years in a row, and he likely will be back in front of council discussing the crop losses on that parcel of land. So Mr. Brooks is not asking the county to replace the bridge back to the previous width, as he understands that would be a substantial cost to the county and likely something they probably couldn't bear. He would suggest a resolution of a low-level crossing across the creek on his property at a much lower cost. This would actually be a permanent solution rather than dealing with continued crop losses or purchasing new, narrower equipment to resolve this situation. So I guess in closing, Mr. Brooks is just asking for county to reconsider providing him access to his property, the same as all the other county landowners, for a situation that was not of his doing, and has resulted from the county's project, which he was not consulted on when he was a directly affected party. So that's my comments, and thank you very much for letting me speak on Mr. Brooks' behalf. He's not comfortable in these settings. That's why I'm here on his behalf.
Well, thank you, Ms. Patrick, and I certainly understand when people aren't comfortable. It's kind of an intimidating setting, and you did very well. You've got the point across. We did speak about this. It's interesting because when we did, we believed that there was another way forward there. So I look to administration. Would they like to make any comments at this point, or meet with Mr. Brooks and Ms. Patrick? Do you have any comments from here so far? Any suggestions moving forward? And I realize it's public input.
Thank you, Councillor Burney. Yes, a couple of comments. The project team originally, when they looked at the project, looked on the east side of that bridge and contacted all of the landowners that were adjacent to the roadway, and they had no problem with the narrow bridge. We looked at all of the legal access then and today, as it still remains, and no one with legal access had an issue with that. In a perfect world, I think, If you had gone up a quarter mile north and looked, there's a piece of the top parcel of that quarter section to the west that can only gain access across the creek or around and through the farmer's field to the east. And even speaking with the landowner to the east, didn't even mention that their access had to be considered for that. So I understand where the project team sort of didn't capture every possible scenario. And so, like I said, in a perfect world, maybe, you know, we would have ascertained that access might be needed from that landowner to the west. Currently, we're still looking at solutions. We haven't given up on it. We're looking at solutions, and we're looking at some low-level crossings, and we're in conversations with geotextile companies for a more highly technical type solution where we can provide access for the farmer to the west. So we'll continue with that, and once we get that information and the cost estimate for that work, we'll come back and have that conversation with council.
Thank you for that, Mr. McGowan. I appreciate that. Are there any comments that council would like to make? I'll look at Councillor Wiedemann, please.
Okay. Just a couple of comments. Janet, is it typical that the farmer's advocate will come in and address council in these types of settings?
Yeah, we can. Yes, we can provide support. Mr. Brooks is very emotional about the situation, and we went over everything he would like discussed. I'm not legal representation. I want to make that very clear. But yes, we will come and help people through the process of coming to council.
I'm not typically that formal, but my suggestion would be for next time to make an appointment to come into council as a council delegation, like to come in. This is fine, but I'm just saying we would schedule you in for your presentation, and we could have asked you more questions formally. We can anyways, but we don't typically ask questions in this format, so it's good you're here. I'm just saying probably would have been better to come in and schedule yourself, and then we would have had a bit more prep work done on the administration's part. But that being said, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. What would happen if the landowner on the other side of the river or creek sold and would not allow access to Mr. Brooks? I guess I'll put that out to you.
Right. I mean, he would be in a predicament for access, for sure.
Sorry, cut you.
Yeah. So I mean, if you guys did work to fix the bridge and make it wider, that could be a potential issue, and that's kind of why we're looking at the low-level crossing on his property, which should be at a lower cost anyway, so.
So if we rebuild the bridge and then we provide a low-level crossing, we're actually doing two different crossings then. Is that, what's your idea of a low-level crossing?
Well, actually, we're not actually asking to do anything with the bridge. The low-level crossing, the idea of this is it's much lower cost. It's a simpler solution. It can be done quicker. Probably less impacts as far as Water Act, approvals. So just trying to look at a simple, cost-effective solution to the problem.
It's my understanding that the bridge has to be rebuilt anyway, so to provide proper access. Is that correct? No?
The bridge has been rebuilt.
If I may just comment, the low-level crossing was a solution and a consideration from our end. So if we were to provide a access that is wider to accommodate this, larger implements and larger tractor, instead of rebuilding the bridge, taking it out and replacing it with something bigger, which would be very, very expensive, is an alternative is a low-level crossing, which would entail fair weather crossing, not at spring melt when the floodwaters are deep and wide, but in the spring, after a short period of time and after spring melt, the water goes down and you increase the bearing capacity through the lake, right? And so that the tractor could just drive through the stream. I'm not saying that the environmental approvals would be easier, because they wouldn't. We don't even know if we could get environmental approval, but they've been built many, many times in the past, and there's those hoops to jump through for environmental approvals to even get the construction in. So it's not something that would happen immediate. We'd have to first and foremost get environmental approval, and then we would go out to construct it. But engineering right now is looking at a low-level crossing, so we're looking at some geotextile solution to increase the capacity so that he can drive through without damaging the creek and without getting stuck. And so we would provide that stability on the bottom of it, because it's not a very wide creek, it's not very deep. He has some large farm equipment. And so I think it's a reasonably effective cost solution rather than rebuilding the bridge or replacing the bridge, which would be as much or more than the original. Well, certainly probably even more than the original cost.
And then if I remember right, a municipality doesn't have to give legal access to a piece of land that's landlocked. Is that correct?
That is correct. The municipality is responsible for giving each parcel of property legal access. That parcel has legal access, but it is fragmented and separated from a creek. So we're not required legally to provide access to, there's many parcels that creeks and water bodies bisect. But it's the parcel itself, the legal entity of a parcel. So if someone wanted to subdivide that top piece off, they would have to arrange for legal access to that before they would, before subdivision would be accepted.
So there is legal access there, I think, if I remember right, by another location, although there's not a road in there. Is that correct?
There is a possibility, currently that 40 acres, is it?
I think it's 60.
Sorry, yes. The 60 acres right now, apparently he used to cross the bridge and then drive through the farmer's field that lives to the east, drive through that field, and then up to that 60 acres on the top corner of his quarter section. If he was to go down the range road to the east from the north, he could potentially go through the north part of the same person's quarter section to access that. But we haven't driven through that to find out what is all, what is entailed behind providing that access. Does it need to have some tree clearing? We looked, we drove down there, we had a look. We didn't drive on private property at this point in time, and we had a look, and the first portion of the roadway is an old road that was built in there for, we believe, for the peat moss mining. So there is a road that goes along the north side of his neighbor's property in the direction of his property, but what happens beyond our site, we couldn't tell.
I guess what I'm asking is, I thought he could drive from his property to this 60-acre property without going on anybody else's land. Is that not the case?
No, that is not the case. There is no statutory road allowance or, that accesses that northeast quadrant.
Thank you, Mr. McGowan. Moving on, Mayor Gamble, you had a comment.
I do. First of all, just for the sense of public input, I want to thank you for coming in today and sharing this information. The goal of public information is for council to receive information provided by the public. So just for clarification, the information that you provided, I want to thank you because it is factual and it's right right on the money with respect to what has occurred. Parkland County has been diligent. We have fulfilled our legal requirements with respect to providing access to those directly affected according to our regulations. You did allude to a gentleman's agreement with respect to the access on title of the owner across the bridge. That is the issue. If that had been a formalized agreement that which you alluded to, we would have picked up on that. So at this point, we're in an unfortunate situation. The one piece of information that you brought, which is new to us today, is we were under the understanding that there was an alternate route about 5K to which Mr. Brooks would be able to access the property. That's the most recent information that council has. You're saying today that that does not exist. So Mr. McGowan has alluded to, council will take this information. We understand that you're simply providing a request for help, that you're providing how can we reconsider the information given that the new bridge that was replacing the old bridge is slightly smaller, which does not allow for Mr. Brooks' implements to cross the bridge. So council has the new information for reconsideration, and I understand through Mr. McGowan that our engineering team is looking at a low-level potential for that at a much reduced cost rate than for us looking at replacing the bridge. So that's where we're at. We're going to take that information and move forward with that. So thank you for coming in and sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, that concludes, I believe, our public input. Is there anyone else to speak? All right, seeing none, we're going to move forward. So 4.2 on the agenda is our Agricultural Services Board update. We have Ms. Schaefer's here, and do I need to look to Mr. Cross for an introduction?
Sure, I can look after that for committee this morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Pleased to welcome Ms. Susan Schaefer's, our Board Chair of the Agricultural Services Board, and Ms. Krista Cannell, Director of Agriculture and Environmental Services. And they're here this morning to present the committee an update and revised terms of reference for the ASB, and are prepared to answer any questions that the committee may have. With that, I'll turn things over to the ladies for the presentation. Thank you.
How are you doing this morning, ladies? I see you have your Oilers blue on.
Fully admit, like, I'm not a hockey person.
Oh, yeah, Mike. Susan, can you just hit the tab on your, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not really a hockey person. I'm happy that they're moving this far along. Some of us are old enough to remember the great times of the Oilers in the 80s, some of us around. It feels like the glory days are back, but they haven't won yet, so we'll see how it goes.
I was going to say I'm doing excellent in honor of Susan. But So good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here today with Susan Schaefer, our Ag Service Board Chair, to provide an update on the progress made by our Ag Service Board towards our 2024 work plan, as well as receive feedback on proposed changes to the terms of reference. Do you want me to do it, or? Okay. Doing both. If you want to do it, then, yeah, okay, thanks. We're gonna give you that. All right, the ASB consists of 7 public members who represent the farming community across the county and 2 council members. Next slide. As a refresher, municipalities are required to establish an Ag Service Board as per the Agricultural Service Board Act. The duties of the board are established in the Act and include the following: providing advice to the provincial minister, advising on regulatory matters under the various acts, assisting in control of animal disease under the Animal Control Act, promoting, enhancing, and protecting viable and sustainable agriculture with a view of improving the economic viability of the agricultural producer, and promoting and developing agricultural policies to meet the needs of the county. At their April meeting, the board reviewed administrated's proposed changes to the current terms of reference. They moved to recommend the updated document to council for consideration. A list of proposed changes is before you, and the updated document was included in the agenda package. At a high level, the changes include updated format to align all of the council's committee's terms of reference for clarity and ease of reference, updated purpose to align with the current strategic plan, reduced reporting requirements to biannually, aligning council's membership and meeting frequency to current practice, including requirements for members to demonstrate stakeholder interest in the agricultural industry in Parkland County, and adding additional clarity on administrative processes. Pending feedback from the committee today, administration will bring forward the updated terms of reference at the June 11th council meeting for approval. As part of their regulatory function, the ASB provides insight and advice on operational programs that are governed by provincial acts, such as the Weed Control Act. In 2024, staff will be visiting 100% of the properties in the designated focus areas that you can see on the map to inspect for weeds. Information will be provided to landowners to try to achieve voluntary compliance, which is always our goal. If voluntary compliance cannot be achieved, some properties will receive weed notices, which may be enforced upon if necessary.
One little side note, and I did want to thank council, all of council, for your financial support for Holborn Hall's 100th anniversary, and secondly, for your physical support in terms of volunteering and attending our dinner and dance. We had a wonderful weekend, full of celebration, full of community, and everything that a local community hall represents. So I wanted to thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefers. We did report on it last week, and it was a wonderful day. I spent the whole day out there, and I said, don't think it could be done any better than it was. And it's so wonderful to see such a healthy response and participation in a hall. And Holborn Hall is a perfect example of embracing the community. So congratulations again, and on the 100th anniversary, and we'll go till the next one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it. If I make it even to the 125th, I think I'll be doing well.
Yeah, let's set up the younger generations, though, which is
Yeah, yeah. And I did want to say that whole event really was coming together of a large group of volunteers. We had over 50 volunteers for the entire weekend. So it was really, it was heartwarming, especially living in the community for as long as I have. Sorry, that was a little side note, had nothing to do with ASB. But many of you who've worked with me before know that I call it squirrel moments. And I was saying to Krista outside that when I come to this presentation every time, we meet regularly, we have great meetings, but I'm always amazed at the amount of work that this committee does and the things that they achieve during that particular time. And I wanted to also thank the staff for that, because they guide us along, you know, and you're in the same boat. So you're in a strategic advice position, but there's lots of people that work behind the scenes that really do make everything happen. So I wanted to thank our staff at the ASB, at the Agricultural Services Board. So back to our presentation. So we provide strategic advice to council, right? And we have had lots of opportunities to do that this year. We always want to make sure that agricultural producers in this county, their perspective is taken into account, and that we want to be a county that has a healthy, vibrant, and sustainable agricultural base. So the Municipal Development Plan and the Land Use Bylaw are particularly important documents. There's a lot of opinions about that, but we're all very, very sure that we want to protect our prime agricultural land, and that's all classes 1, 2, and 3. We don't want to have loss of land, fragmentation of land. And so we're going to continue to provide input into those policy developments. So we've also been kept abreast with the Alberta Utilities Commission process for the approval of renewable energy projects. That's a really hot topic, I think, and a lot of different opinions about that as well. But again, we are very united to say that we want to make sure that the municipal plans are complied with and that our MDP has policy in place to ensure that our prime agricultural land is preserved. We've also had a chance to review the county's livestock emergency plan. We've provided feedback in terms that the resource lists that are available are updated and current, and that the processes for volunteering resources and accessing the evacuation zones are clear and efficient. And then finally, I did miss this one last month, but we had an overview of the environmentally significant areas conservation framework that was presented last month. And it had a focus on tools that can support conservation of both environmental areas and agricultural land. And so the board was very supportive of the use of these tools and looks forward to further updates on the framework. The provincial conference is that opportunity for us to provide input into things that affect us, I think, provincially. And so in January, 10 resolutions were passed at the provincial ASB conference. We supported 9 out of those 10 proposed resolutions, and noted that one was not supported due to its request for programming that would overlap with the ALICE program and create inefficiencies. The provincial ASB is also collecting responses to the resolutions from other organizations, which will then be reviewed by our committee once those have been received. At the same time, the board's been discussing areas where advocacy is required to determine if we would like to present a resolution to the 2024 regional conference. And so some of these areas include improvements to the Weed Control Act to support enforcement, reducing red tape and implementing ag land conservation tools such as the transfer of development credit programs, and improving support of awards delivered through ag societies. We do something well in this county, and that is celebration of agriculture. We've historically given out 2 major awards. They've been given out biannually to celebrate the agricultural community in our region of the province. I was very honored by the nomination of my late father, Manfred Knale, to the Agricultural Hall of Fame. We haven't heard back yet, and hopefully that will go through, and whether it happens or not, I know he would be honored as well. We did unfortunately, though, hear from Explore Edmonton, that's what Northlands used to be called, that they're not going to be recognizing farm families any longer due to lack of participation. I find that hard to believe. Anyway, we've had 43 farm families being presented with that award since its inception 44 years ago. And so we did send a letter saying that we were unhappy with this change that they've had. Hopefully we'll hear back more about why. We have in front of us now the 2024 growing season. We've very much monitor moisture levels throughout the province and here in the county. Yesterday's rain was lovely. And so I think we're in a good position. You know, I think everybody who's in agriculture is always pretty hesitant to make any types of predictions out there. But it's certainly, the moisture levels are much better than what was initially forecast for this season. So we still have had an opportunity, though, to provide input in the development of a drought management plan for the county, which I think is extremely important. And that helps ensure that the risks to farming are planned for and that mitigation measures are in place if they're actually needed. The board was also provided preliminary data with the deregulation of fusarium in the Agricultural Pests Act. A percentage of positive samples have increased from 1 to 10% in 2021 to over 50% in 2024. So that's a rapid change. And the board provided recommendations to the Stony Plains seed cleaning plant for acceptable levels in seed cleaning to reduce the spread. We do quite a bit of work with extension and outreach organizations, Farming Forward, the Gateway Research Organization, Your Parkland is one of the latest ones. So we want to make sure that programming is meeting the needs of the farming community. And to that end, we've recommended the development of a county agricultural news and events page in a way to share timely information. I think that's the real key. In terms of extension, the other way we do that is we are going to be hosting the Northwest Regional Agricultural Services Board Conference in the county. That will be in late October. And that's where we have an opportunity to showcase our local programs and advocate for our priorities here. So we've begun planning as well for our for our annual producer dinner. That's held in mid-November. And we want to capitalize on the event, just not only to celebrate the agricultural community, but also to gain insight into what farmers really want and need from our county. And so we've been talking about ways how to seek their input and then how to put it into the work plan for 2025. And so we do hope to see you there this fall. The county has long-standing history with supporting 4-H in our community. And we have always been lucky to have local 4-H clubs volunteer at the producer dinner. And the board was able to support the recent beef sales that happened at the end of May through donations of sand and registration costs for Parkland County residents. And I understand, I wasn't there, that Parkland County was awarded an award for their long-term support. So congratulations to the county for your ongoing support of youth in agriculture. So that's some of the stuff that we have been covering. Coming up, you can see there's a whole list of things. And for Councillor Burney and who's there, there are a lot of topics that we are interested in. And so we had a little bit of work to do to actually try and prioritize where we can put all that energy. And so some are still sort of ongoing. The energy roadmap is one that has had a lot of conversation: solar, wind, hydrogen, those types of things. And I think it's really important that the county continue to have conversations about not just about the viability of those options, but the long-term impacts of how they affect the land, the producers, and the public. So that is one that's high on our list. We want to talk about some cooperative models. Again, yearly we talk about resolutions, but also one of the ways, not just to have resolutions, how to have good resolutions, how to get resolutions that actually gain enthusiasm, traction, and the ear of the minister and the staff. Because otherwise it's a big waste of effort, in my opinion. And that isn't something that provincially, in my history anyway, that the provincial ASB has been great at. They have been working at it though, and so we've been trying to provide some feedback to them about how that can continually be improved. We are working on things like the bursary winners, the criteria that needs to happen for choosing winners, and some of the other things that are still coming up. They're new, but they're old. Rural theft, rising costs of insurance, rising costs of everything. And so I was chatting with Krista. Recently I've been affected, probably many of you have been, with rural theft. It is brazen and it is getting out of hand. And I'm not really sure how that can be solved, but those are conversations that we want to have with protective services, is that's what they're called? Enforcement services. I think we want to still continue to have some of those conversations, and again, the value of community, I think, can't be understated there. And so how can we work with our local crime watch partners and things like that? So these are things that we know are on the map for our work plan in the rest of the year, but as always, we're open to new and urgent and emerging items as well. So that's the end of our formal presentation. We welcome any questions at all.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefers. I sit on that board with you, and I must say you chair the board, and we have some very interesting conversations, and you do a really great job of corralling us, because those conversations go all over the place. We have a great board. We have a great diversion of opinion and producers and people in ag. So always look forward to those meetings, and they're always over sooner than you think. So anyways, looking to that, I will look to Councillor Kabasiak, if you would like to put the first motion on the floor, please.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move that the committee receive the Agricultural Services Board update for information as presented, and appreciate the comments that you're bringing. And it's always good to hear the enthusiasm and support, whether it's, changes in Farm Family Awards or the 4-H, the amazing attendance at that 4-H attendance, that service, that show with all the kids that were attending, and parents and grandparents. So all those things that you're discussing and you're bringing us an update today, I really appreciate, and pleased that that enthusiasm continues. Thank you.
Councillor Kowalski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming. Just so you know, I will be standing in for Councillor Hoosloot for the time that he's on leave. So I'm really excited about that. We all would love to be on every committee and board, but it's just physically not possible. So I'm really excited about that. Councillor Kabasiak, I recently attended a crime prevention conference, and we attended the rural stream, which was really, really fascinating. Unfortunately, I don't think we had any staff participate, but some really interesting things. The RCMP are looking to support rural communities, and we can talk about that at the next ASB meeting. But really interesting was a presentation. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my notes because I didn't think I'd use them today for this discussion, about having a counselor therapist in the ECC when we have a fire or a critical situation in the ECC to support farmers who are having to deal with their livestock. And so she cited all the things they've done and trialing that out in various fires. So this fire, they talked about the one that was in Brazeau, of course, which also had effects for us, how important having that support is, and that there's now a very robust counseling program available to the farm community. The first, I think, 4 hours are at no charge, and it's really starting to take off. So it might be a conversation we have. So very challenging. And when you're out on a long road and you're just gone to town, you're at risk. It's a very, very challenging situation for sure. Look forward to all these conversations. Thank you.
Mayor Gamble.
Great, thank you, Ms. Schaefers and Ms. Quinnell. I'm going to take a higher level look at this. We're expecting 1 million people to come to this region, and I think it's incumbent upon us to provide and work towards the concept of food security. And you mentioned it, that you're very sure, and as well as with prioritization and providing advice to council, that we're very cognizant of wanting to protect our prime agricultural land, soils 1, 2, and 3. We do, of course, have the EMRB overlay to provide us the areas that are relevant related thereto. And I believe that the best opportunity for Parkland County is to be able to provide for land that is actively producing food, that we protect that. And we would do that through our bylaws and municipal development plans with respect to utilities such as solar and wind on prime agricultural land, as well as RV storage lots. So I understand that sometimes the farmer's perspective is to want to capitalize on that land. However, I think it's a big responsibility that's incumbent upon us to protect those prime ag lands, and I'm not sure exactly the way to do it or to put that stick in the ground that protects those lands, and specifically related to the organization at the Alberta Utilities Commission who has the ability to override us. So I don't know whether that's through a resolution, but I would look forward to task the committee to come up with the ability for us to accomplish that goal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for those comments. I think that's every farmer's struggle. Every farmer's struggle. How to maintain what you have, grow what you have, and either pass it on, if you're fortunate enough to have that happen in your family, or how to transfer your farming operation into somebody else's hands. I think that's a worldwide conversation. I think that's very much a societal conversation. I think, and I'm going to be really honest here, I think there's a lot of lip service given to this concept. Because it's very easy to make decisions for someone else. And unless there is societal support, strong societal support for agriculture and maintaining that, and acknowledging the cost of that. And so unless those conversations happen continually and keeping that in people's foreminds, the area that I live, southwest of Stony Plain in that Holborn community area, is a prime example of encroachment, decisions about how to continue to farm in that area. I just bought land in that area. The costs, how to transfer that on to the next generation. The acreage, people love that area. It's great. It's close. It's beautiful. It's great land for the most part. The soil is lovely. And people want their horses and dogs and chickens and goats and everything there. And they want agriculture as well. But I don't know if they're willing to support it necessarily. And that's the conversations overall that need to continue to happen. I'm not exactly sure how we ever solve those problems. I think, you know, if you look in areas like Ontario and the BC and some of those areas, they've taken some quite drastic steps in their communities, in their larger agricultural areas in terms of preserving that. And so I hope we have the opportunity to continue to talk about that amongst the ASB, but also with council. And I think that that's going to be I mean, if I had to prioritize something around that, I'd say that, preservation of prime agricultural land, this is from a personal perspective, and the whole energy conversation. I think those are really two very big items that we need to work on and develop some sort of roadmap at least. Thank you.
I agree with you, Ms. Schaefer's. I also think that we may have to take a look on the ASB board as to federal and provincial buy-in in some way, and take a look at where we want to go with resolutions, what other areas are doing, like you say, what other jurisdictions are doing. It's worth a conversation, more conversation. It's becoming more and more vital all the time. So imperative, actually. All right, looking to council, are there any other comments, questions? So seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? All right, that motion is carried. And I will look to Mayor Gamble to put the second motion on the floor, please.
Thank you. I'll move that the committee direct administration to bring the updated terms of reference for the Agricultural Services Board to the June 11th, 2024 council meeting for approval as presented.
All right. Any comments, opening comments? Closing?
No comments.
All right. Seeing no comments, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you, ladies. Once again, we look forward to the next meeting. All right, and now we are looking to the Community Sustainability Committee, and once again, I will look to Mr. Cross for introduction.
Who's it?
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's
Economic Diversification, I skipped one. Sorry, Councillor Kowalski. So on that committee too. So, sorry, Kate. All right, so I'm looking to administration. Mr. McGowan, would you like to introduce this for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please welcome Kate Pawlowski, the Economic Diversification Committee Chair, to our meeting, and our Robin Holstein, the Acting Director of Growth and Strategy. They're here to present and provide an update on the committee as well as revised terms of reference. And with that, I'll hand the floor over to Kate, and we'll be happy that council may have.
Good morning, Kate and Robin. I sit here and I look at two powerhouses sitting before us, so I'm looking forward to your presentation. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will kick off the presentation and go through the PowerPoints, and Robin will provide a little bit more information as we go. Next slide. Our members made up of a very diverse group of folks, both who reside within the county and who reside in the surrounding areas, but work within the county and provide a specific perspective on sort of the economic diversification within the region. And it's really, as Councillor Burney and Councillor Kowalski could attest to, there's some really good conversations and some very dynamic perspectives on that board. Next slide. We're here to provide an update on the committee in terms of our 2023-2024 activities. And we're really taking a very specific focus on providing strategic advice to some of the work that administration's working on from a workflow perspective, providing some advisory functions from some of the tangential work, whether it's the focus on economic diversification, sort of how we recycle things in terms of lands, et cetera. And some upcoming activities. Next slide. So from a strategic perspective, a lot of time has gone into the committee terms of reference review and really a modernization of that perspective to provide some consistency from a terms of reference perspective amongst the other boards within the county. The group has done a work plan review and update, really wholesome conversation and time and effort put into the MDP review and sort of the committee's perspective into various facades of that, as well as the LUB side of things. Some really good conversation from the tourism project and sort of that tourism launch that admin did, as well as providing the perspective of how that could grow and evolve as it takes a life of its own and supports the county as we go forward. The Wabamun Harp letter of support, as well as business attraction and land management, and really how we build out those prime lands to support that economic diversification and tax base. Next slide. The terms of reference itself, we really modernized the template, clarified a number of the work, and simplified the areas that we focus on. It was a bit disjointed prior to that. So it went, I'd say, probably almost like a year and a half sort of evolution, and it's at a really nice place now. We updated the purpose to reflect the strategic plan that council supports, merged functions and limitations, and renamed sections of roles and responsibilities, and really clarified the ability to support perspectives coming in from outside of Parkland County that support that Parkland County perspective and growth within the region. Separated terms and membership for better clarification, and added new sections for clarity on current processes. Next slide. Do you want to jump in or do you want me to finish? Okay. So in terms of upcoming activities that the committee is really focusing on, again, they are taking a very, I'll say intimate, but that's probably the wrong word. They're continuing to watch the MDP development and LUB development as we go forward, and taking very specific lenses in terms of how collectively we review it and support administration in that regards from that economic diversification side of things. Wholesome conversation in terms of the evolution and history of Edmonton Global within Parkland County. Tourism and sort of the growth of Wabamun and redevelopment of Wabamun and how those strategies are being rolled out. And then a strong focus, obviously, on our industrial and commercial areas within the county and how those both continue to be built out and how our older areas recycle and then redevelop to support the county in the future. Next slide. Before we jump to questions, are there any further clarifications required around the terms of reference updates? Everyone's comfortable with that?
All good.
Perfect. Any questions for the committee chair?
No, I think it's looking all good. I am going to look to Councillor Kowalski, if you would like to put the first motion on the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, let me think. Do I want to do this quote? Of course I do. That the committee received the Economic Diversification Committee update for information as presented, and of course I have a few comments. I have to say that I am thrilled and honored to be part of the Diversification Committee. We've made some major strides the last few years in focusing our work. We have an absolutely phenomenal diversification team who produce, I don't like those expressions, but they punch way over their weight by about tenfold, and whatever we can do to support them is important. Some very interesting conversations for certain around the MDP, Edmonton Global, and of course, I think, Robin, we can talk about the award for tourism, and I heard the ad on Saturday, so that was really exciting. So really pleased the approach that committee has that supports our strategic plan and is critical assessment to provide really fair input. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Looking to council for any other questions or comments? Mayor Gamble?
Great, thank you. Certainly appreciate the work that you do and really like seeing the prioritization and the focus that was provided in our strategic plan and the alignment there too. That's going to be the engine that drives Parkland County, and you're the revenue side. So that is a very critical side that allows us to provide the services that Parkland County provides for all residents. So thank you for everything that you do.
And I will wrap it up by saying that I sit on the committee as well and very much appreciate sitting on that committee and speaking with everyone. The conversations, the directions that we're going are always exciting, and the conversation just goes in so many different directions, and great ideas are there, great minds are there, and just appreciate all the work that you do. So thank you for that. So with no more, I will look to council we'll call the motion. All in favor? All right, that motion is carried, and I will look to Councillor Wiedemann for the second motion, please.
Council, that the committee direct administration to bring the updated terms of reference for the Economic Diversification Committee to June 11th, 2024 council meeting for approval as presented.
All right, conversation, questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? All right, with that, that motion is carried. Ladies, thank you once again. Now we will move to the Community Sustainability Committee. And I will look to Mr. Cross once again for introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, pleased to welcome our Julie Berger, our Community Sustainability Chair, as well as Cameron Appelt, who's a committee member, and they're here to present the committee update and revised terms of reference, and they'll be happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Good morning, familiar faces once again. Cameron, I don't know you, but I look forward to getting to work with you, as I will sit on that committee soon as well. So welcome, and please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and the Governance and Priorities Committee. You already know me, you said it, I'm Julie, I'm Chair, and this is my colleague, Graham. We're pleased to be here today to provide the Governance and Priority Committee with an updates on our activities during the last half of 2022 and 2023. The Community Sustainability Committee is made up of these wonderful people. We have, you've already met Graham and myself. We also have Cindy Iverson, and I apologize in advance because I know I'm gonna slaughter some names. Tyler Marlatt, Sherry Buttery, Cameron Applet, and Kaylee Boyko. All these new and wonderful people adding to this committee. Our council representative is Councillor Kabasiak from Division 3, and Councillor Burney will be joining us as well for Division 2. We are pleased to be here today and share with you some of the exciting things we've been doing, the work we've been doing for you. The presentation will highlight the items we've worked on and been part of, along with how we contributed. We have dealt with items spanning all 4 pillars of Council's strategic plan, with much of our time spent in the complete communities and respected environment, and agricultural pillars. Our work hits on two main areas, providing strategic advice on higher level guiding plans and documents for the county, along with acting in an advisory capacity for staff on policy items they are preparing for council's consideration. We will highlight what we've been up to and where we're looking forward to taking up. On the strategic side of things, we have discussed a number of items. We have looked at our terms of reference and made some formatting change, which Dave will highlight later. We discussed the residency term, as currently members do not have to be Parkland County residents. The committee is okay with this, but feel that the members outside of the county should, of course, have some stake and interest in Parkland County. We have total trust in the council with their interview and selection process that they will pick the best and great members for the committee. We reviewed and updated the committee's work plan, which was presented to and approved by council back in January of this year. Staff managing the Municipal Development Plan, or MDP, and the Land Use Bylaw, LUB, have done a great job including us in sharing information and gathering our feedback to be used in their process through their process. We know that these are very important documents for council, and we look forward to our continued involvement. The community services provided us with orientation to the social development plan and shared proposed implementation, where we provided feedback and comments that were rolled out, and believe that this plan was shared for information at the Governance and Priority Committee, was it last month? Some areas of importance for the committees were improving access to information and using all forms of communication to get the word out, as a lot of rural residents still rely on print media. We also support administration's continuing review of the FCSS partnership and to ensure that Parkland County and its residents are being met, all their needs. One of council's priorities is to strengthen our protection of environmentally significant areas. We were oriented by staff on the ESAs and worked through a fun exercise looking at the different types of developments that could be possible. And we looked at 3 areas: no, absolutely no development, yes, but, which means having conditions, and then no, but. Usually developments would not happen in these areas, but this approach is to encourage and drive innovations that would benefit the county, its residents, as well as keep the environmental areas protected. The committee was previously involved with providing input into the major bylaw reviews. We were given an update on the current status of all of them. Now I'll pass it all over to my colleague Graham to continue the presentation.
Good morning. Sorry if my voice is a little raspy. It's cheering on the Oilers.
You are excused. You can go right down to a whisper if you must.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, as part of the committee, we served for some advisory functions, of course. One of those was we're responsible for reviewing and adjudicating the non-for-profit funding applications with staff. We were oriented to the program and adjudication process and worked along with staff and developed and presented a listing of recommendations for council for the 2024 budget year. Community services also shared information and activities they were undertaking to try and encourage development of a community league in Wabamun. A survey was being planned and the committee reviewed the questions and approach and provided feedback to administration for that survey. One of the working plan items for the committee is centered on community connections. Community services staff came in and shared information about a number of activities that they have to go to connect communities. One particular was of interest to the committee was the Love Where You Live program, which is essentially a block party type program where the county provides funding, equipment, and supplies to residences to organize an event in their own community. There were 26 last year, and the committee provided feedback and thoughts on how to grow the program with things like more predominant presence on the website, ensuring it's shared in the county newsletter, encouraging those to have hosted to share success on a local Facebook groups, and simplifying the application process. Administration shared information on the proposed fertilizer bylaw, including why it's being proposed, what is being restricted, and how it will be implemented, and sought comments and feedback on how far out restrictions should go from the water body and the engagement approach. And I'll pass it over to Dave there for the terms of reference and proposed revisions.
Thanks, Cameron. So similar to the other committees, we've not really changed much in terms of the actual intent of the terms of reference. We focused on simplifying them, simplifying the format, and adding some clarity in some of the areas. So it's similar to the other committees of council. We updated the purpose to accurately reflect the current council strategic plan. As mentioned, we made adjustments to the format, so you see that we merged some sections, function limitations, and it's been renamed roles and responsibilities. We did separate term and membership for better clarification. As highlighted earlier, the committee discussed whether or not a member needed to be a county resident, and the proposed direction from the committee is to leave it as it is for the reasons spoken to by Julie earlier on in the presentation. We changed the meetings to more accurately reflect what the committee's actually been doing, how often they've been meeting, and some new sections were added around some of the logistical supports, so admin support, decision-making, meeting minutes and notes, that sort of thing. And that sums up the adjustments. So again, nothing major, just kind of cleaning things up a bit for council and committee. So with that, I'll turn things back to Cameron. Thank you.
And then, next slide here, we'll talk about what's upcoming for us. So we have a number of items coming up that we are excited about working on for you. One of those items is the MDP and the LUB work is ongoing. We look forward to providing our input and feedback and support of those projects, those developments. We'll be tackling the not-for-profit program in August and September, and we'll bring forth our 2025 recommendation for your consideration, as well as we'll be discussing public safety, providing feedback on trails implementation plan, discussing broadband, and feedback on the ESA protection framework as staff continue to work on that. And with that, that concludes our presentation and update, and we're happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You did very well. I could hear you well and clear, so you've got a lot of your voice saved for Saturday, which is good. Always look forward to hearing from our committees because you're all busy. You all really do some great work on there. You cover a wide variety of topics, so thank you, and thank you for reporting back to us. I will look to Councillor Kuchar-Johnson to put that motion on the floor, please, the first one.
That the committee receive the Community Sustainability Committee update for information.
And I will look to council for any comments or questions. Councillor Kabas, or the other K, Kowalski. Yeah, I get lost in the Ks on this council. Kowalski, please.
The K team has it, thank you. Good morning, Julie and Cameron, thank you for coming. If I can ask a question, I see that you've done some work on the nutrient loading bylaw. Did you consider looking at just water bodies like our lakes and the rivers, like the Sturgeon River and along the North Saskatchewan? Did you consider that, or was that outside of your term of reference?
So yeah, when it was presented to us, a lot of it was, I think the definition from my understanding was that lakes, the definition of a lake and what is a lake can change year to year. What we were presented on is some of the past work that's been done at Jackfish Lake, Wabamun, Hubble's Lake, and just some of the advisories that they had done to kind of help promote and, to prevent contamination, I guess, of those bodies of water for those that fell within a certain type of criteria. And it sounded like they had very good compliance already, and that people were very open to receiving that type of feedback. And I think it's just being able to present that to people and making them aware that, hey, this is actually how your property could be impacting the lakes that you enjoy and how to keep them clean. So no, there wasn't anything on rivers or anything like that. Julie, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, we also we brought up, what about the septic system? And there is already programs, and they have addressed a lot of lakes, and they still continuing. I do think that if we look for moving forward, we have lots of lakes, unnamed lakes in the county, and Dave True's doing amazing work in evaluating them. I think, like we had put forth, those shouldn't be ignored either, as development will happen with 1 million coming in. We know it's going to be more urban settings, but we still need to protect those water bodies because they do funnel down to either a lot of the lakes that are currently being used for fishing, sailing, swimming, and we know that there has been a decrease in health of the lakes in some areas. So it needs to be considered when we're looking at development plans for future developments and protecting those areas.
Yeah, Dave True's work is truly important for all of the lakes in our area, named and unnamed both. Council, I'm looking again. Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor, and I will call on it, please. All in favor? Motion carried. Councillor, I will look to Councillor Kubasiak for the second motion, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I move that the committee direct administration to bring the updated terms of reference to the June 11th, 2024 council meeting for approval as presented. And thank you very much for making your presentation. There's a number of new members including on this committee, including yourself, Cameron, and there's been a lot of information, I think somewhat overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're presented and asked to give some input. Usually when council gets presentations, we give ourselves a couple of weeks to digest and then make comments. So you guys are on the floor running there with some of that information, but a majority new members, but majority new members with new ideas. So thank you, Julie and Cameron, for your presentation.
All right. Oh, Councillor Wiedemann, no, don't run away yet. You're not off the hook. Hang on.
Just a comment. I see a couple of references on different committees to include non-resident members. And just wanted your perspective as to why. I have no issue with non-residents, but I think they still should be taxpayers. And so that's my comment. Just wanted your comments on it.
I understand your perspective. We also were brought forth that there could be people that don't particularly live in Parkland County, but have previously done work with the county or ministerial work in the province, and they could actually have good input as well, even though they don't technically live in Parkland County. For example, they could live in Spring Lake. They would be then excluded, but a lot of the policy that happens affects them as well. Same thing as somebody who lives right on the border. Should we want to lose their potential contribution to the county just because a slight political barrier because they aren't considered the county?
Yep, very good point. All right, Councillor Kowalski.
Perhaps just I might ask Mr. Cross to have his admin person look at the language, because someplace we're spelling councillors one way and the other. And in one committee, we have 3 councillors and everybody else is 2. So you might just want to make them even across all the committees. I didn't nitpick until I just looked at it, sorry.
Madam Chair, thank you to you and through to Councillor Kowalski. Thank you for those comments. We will have a look at that. We did, in terms of the number of councillors appointed, we had no issue with the way it was currently listed from the committee perspective, so we left it as it is. So certainly when we bring it forward next week, if council wants to make it consistent across the board, we can make that adjustment for sure. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that. All right, seeing no other comments, questions, I will call the question. All in favor? All right, thank you very much. Now you can take off, run while you can. All right, we have one more committee presentation. I'm just looking to council. Are you okay to listen to hear it out before we go for a break? So, all right. Okay, then we will look to the Alice Partnership Advisory Committee, another very interesting committee, and I will look to, who am I looking to? Dave Cross, Mr. Cross, for introduction, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pleased to welcome Wayne Pucalo, who's the Alice Board Chair, to our meeting this morning, and Chad Ritter, who's our coordinator for Alice. And they're here to present an update from the Alice PAC, and I'll be pleased to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you.
All right, good morning, Wayne and Chad. Always looking forward to what you are up to, so please go ahead.
So thank you, Madam Chair and Council, for the opportunity for us to join you today, myself and PAC Chair Wayne Pucklow, to present a program update on the Alice Parkland program. So as the Alice Parkland program has been supporting agricultural producers in Parkland County for over the past 10 years, I know we're all familiar with the Alice concepts, but the following slides will highlight some of Alice National's current messaging and current program statistics. So Alice continues to engage farmers and ranchers in creating nature-based solutions on their land to build climate resilience and enhance biodiversity for the benefit of communities and future generations. And this difference is made by Alice, as Alice is an economic driver that benefits agricultural producers, the environments, and the entire local community. Alice National can make a difference by sourcing funding from corporate sponsors and grant opportunities and allocating this funding to participating municipalities. As well, Alice makes a difference by providing on-the-ground project support, as well as annual payments for recognition of the ecosystem goods and services that are produced. Alice also continues to make a difference by remaining a community-developed and farmer-delivered program.
Thank you very much for having us here today. So some interesting information about Alice. Alice continues to focus on improving ecosystems, and there's 6 key components: water filtration, clean air, carbon capture, aquifer recharge, habitat improvement, and nutrient cycling. So I just want to point out a few things here on this slide. Alice National has roughly 52,000 acres enrolled in projects, and Parkland has 4,571 acres. So of that total, that's 8.6 of all of Alice National. And there are 39 communities in Alice National. So on average, each community is about 2.56%. So Parkland is at 8.6%. So Parkland plays a major role in Alice National. So we're really, really proud of that. And we attribute that to I've been now with Alice, I think with Parkland Alice now 5 years. And previous to that, I know that Parkland has had Alice involved in many projects, so we contribute that to the hard working of the team here at Alice. Chad, and previous to him, we had another representative, but there is quite a group in Parkland that has a lot of work that they've established to contribute to this great success.
So the following slide will review our 2023 funding allocation that we were able to use in its entirety, as well as review our current 2024 funding allocation. So during the 2023 program year, Alice Parkland received approximately $259,000 in funding from Alice National. This was sourced from 3 different funders. So 100% of the 2023 funding was able to be utilized for new projects, establishment, annual payments, project renewal, as well as program administration related costs. Looking at this program year, in 2024, Alice Parkland was allocated approximately $206,000 in funding, and this funding was received from 4 different funding groups, and we are projected at utilizing 100% of this year's funding, and projected to meet our 2024 acre targets.
So there's some exciting new developments that happen each year with Alice. And one interesting thing, when I first found out about Alice, I saw it in the local newspaper, but I was drawn to this strange name. And even Chad had a phone call, I think, this year with someone who wanted to know what the Alice lady, he wanted to speak to ALICE. But once you get to know what Alice stands for, you really get a great understanding of the great diversity of projects that are involved. And I know some of the things that we have worked on as a team this year, some grazing forward projects, and we had a pilot silvopasture project. So there's a lot of collaboration with even outside agencies involved in this that make this a great success story. So there are 7 new Alice contracts in previous. We just had 7 new contracts, 3 new participants. And that was an increase of 723 acres, which is an increase of 15% in our total amount of acreage. That's a really great contribution. So we can see that Alice continues to steamroll ahead, and our coordinator is fielding questions, and people are getting a great understanding of what Alice actually means or stands for. So they say a picture's like 1,000 words, and I think if we, this is a perfect example of what happened in the past, of what has happened now. And we see in this project that this dugout area has been fenced off, and solar water was established for cattle to drink water. So the benefits with this would be cleaner water, reduced erosion, and lush vegetation regrowth near the water, which would reduce the competition of weeds growing, because generally plants that grow near water grow very tall, and that would outcompete the weeds. Also, from a farmer perspective, the producer, he has cows that are drier, there's less problems with hoof rot, cows not in the water, not getting stuck, cleaner udders. There's a lot of great benefits to having areas fenced off. And it's really interesting to see that a lot of producers are trying to go this way to try to improve things. And I know, as a side note, I know we had an area that we had grazed animals on, but new owners came over, and we noticed now that that wetland now has been overrun by ATVs. So I think it's an education thing that people are going to start learning how to protect these sensitive areas.
So some additional highlights from the Alice Parkland program year. In 2023, Alice Parkland was thrilled to announce that the 2023 Alice National Dave Reed Award was awarded to father-son Alice participants, Wayne and Jesse Puckalo. So this award goes to recognize producers or Alice participants who go above and beyond to produce these ecosystem goods and services and promote sustainability within their operations. And Wayne's contributions to the PAC, as well as his contributions to the entire Alice network, are what I feel are unmatched. So I don't think this award could have went to a more deserving team.
So the Grazing Forward Field
Day. Your button, Wayne.
So sorry. The Grazing Forward Field Day was a great success. There were I know in the past, with COVID, we had limited projects or limited times where we could have people joining us, but it's good to see we're renewed again and we're having people out. So there were about 35 producers at this presentation. It was a very informative day, and we had a keynote speaker, Steve Kenyon, who spoke on soil health and plant health, which was really, really informative. We also had a razor grazer demonstration where this fellow brought in electric fencing, and he showed us how it was set up. And then we also had one of the participants explain how he's controlling pocket gophers. He was talking about successes and things he needs to improve. So it's great to see a lot of people coming out and learning a lot more about what's going on in the county.
So stepping slightly outside of Alice, but still a connection, early this year, we were able, as Parkland County, to host our first ever environmental farm plan workshop. So this EFP workshop was a huge success as we were able to have 8 different farm groups attend, 6 of them being what I'll call standard agricultural producers or operations, and 2 grazing reserves. So this is 1 grazing reserve within Parkland County, and we were able to support and welcome another grazing reserve from Brazeau County as well. So the environmental farm plan, I find, is a great mechanism for Alice extension and outreach, as lots of the risk factors identified in your EFP can often be mitigated by an Alice project. So looking forward to hosting these workshops and continuing to promote environmental farm plans for our county producers in the future. Again, with some highlights. So in 2023 and moving into 2024, we were able to provide various advertisements for our Alice Parkland program, as well as participant bio. These were able to be featured on our Parkland County socials, as well featured, we aim to put out an Alice advertisement in all of the Your Parkland editions that go out quarterly. So these reached lots of potential participants and provided a great, great method of outreach. Also in 2023, I had the pleasure of joining Alice National at the 2023 Canadian Beef Industry Conference that was hosted in Calgary. So this was a great opportunity to partner with Alice National and provide a higher level of outreach on the entire Alice National program and network. At this event, although hosted in Calgary, we fielded questions from potential Alice participants from Alberta, Saskatchewan, even as far as Ontario, where there's all currently Alice communities actively running. As well, looking at this spring in 2024, we were able to partner with Farming Forward again, previously West Central Forage Association, on their 2024 Ladies Ranching Retreat. So this day, Farming Forward hosts and brings in various guest speakers and invites women in agriculture to attend for networking and different teachings or learning opportunities. So this was a great event to have Alice Parkland at, as this is exactly our target audience, and looking forward to continued partnerships with Farming Forward to come. Finally, winding down, this spring in 2024, you were maybe able to see some Alice Parkland billboards that were put up across the county. So in partnership with Pattison Billboards, we had a total of 4 different Alice Parkland advertisements that were posted at 3 different billboard locations throughout the county. As far out as Entwistle along Highway 16, at Wabamun along Highway 16, and on 16A at the Glory Hills intersection. So special thanks to Alice National, who was actually able to provide us additional funding this spring to support this advertisement campaign.
So looking ahead, so we are looking for establishing new 2024 projects. Also renewing of 2023 projects that expired, the 5-year term. On July 18th, there's a partnership with Farming Forward to have a field day. So that is a great collaboration that Chad and Amber will be working on. And Alice Parkland will be doing some carbon monitoring. And just there's a continued outreach and extension. And again, I have to go back to our Alice coordinators, Chad and Jennifer, who previously was the coordinator, because again, it's amazing what these people bring to producers. So for example, the nose pump, Jennifer, our previous producer, pushed me on bringing in a nose pump to our site. And this is a totally green way of having cattle drink water. There's no electricity. Cattle push the pump to get water. So I tribute the great success, again, with our coordinators here at Parkland, and I know that the counselors know the work that they're doing, but I just want to, again, give hats off to our coordinators and the work they do for Alice.
They're thirsty.
Well, I just want to say, you know, I grew up without running water as a kid, and we had a hand pump at home. So the cows have learned that they have to push to get the water. It doesn't take long for them to train them, and they learn. Just like a kid at home, you had to learn how to get the water.
Pavlov, yeah, the experiment.
So thanks again, Madam Chair and Council, for having us here today, and be happy at this time to answer any questions Council would have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chad and Wayne, for that. I just have to say that, you know, we often give the ACTAV, you'll hear us reveal their virtues and how wonderful they are, but we have such a devoted and passionate Ag Services department. So look around at all of you and the great work that you're doing. This absolutely speaks to that. So I will look to Mayor Gamble to put the first motion on the floor.
Thank you. I will move that the
I guess
committee
it is
receive the Alice PAC update for information as presented. And just opening comments, awesome to see the work that you're doing. It's innovative and it allows us to all get better and move forward with opportunities that are before us with respect to conservation and environment and the protection thereof. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Thanks.
Yeah, it looks to Councillor Kubasiak.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. A pleasure to serve on the committee and learn about all the innovative things that are brought and engagement of community to do better environmental work right across our municipality. You mentioned Jennifer Caldron, who was doing coordination with Parkland County. Now she's coming in again through Alice National. So very pleased to have her continue and have her contributions that will benefit Parkland, certainly. Appreciate your presentation. Can you just answer, Chad? This document says 2024 Alice Canada, confidential, do not distribute. Why is there a rider on this presentation? No, I'm not looking to distribute, but the other ones we have don't have that kind of a rider.
So through Madam Chair to Councillor Kubasiak, thank you for that question. So one of the benefits of working with Alice National is they provide a great deal of resources and technical support. So they actually have pre-populated slide decks that you can use, which match their brand guidelines. So just, of course, as it's a document template drafted by Alice National, that's just why that messaging is on there.
Councillor Kuchar-Johnson.
Hi, so I guess I'll be joining you for a couple of months in the next little while here. So I'm looking forward to that. I was just wondering, with the farmers, do you have a good compliance rate, or do you target them based on them coming to you? Is that how you figure out who has ponds that need to be addressed?
So, through Madam Chair to Councillor Kuchar-Johnson, thank you for that question. Since my time as coordinator, I've found that we do continue with outreach and extension, but lots of these participants they're coming to us through that outreach and extension or just through word of mouth. So do find that the participants are often the ones coming to us with this project in mind. So they already have buy-in at the time. And yeah, I just find that participants are really engaged in this type of work, and they often, they come to you, so.
All right, I have a question and a comment. So just looking at your presentation on page 6, you've got that last year you had 3 different funders, and this year we have 4 different funders. Can you let us know who the new funder was?
So thank you, Madam Chair, for that question. So the 4 new funders, it's actually 2 of the funders are both WRRP funding, just of different funding year groups.
Okay.
So still 3 main funders, but 4 different funding groups.
And I see that unfortunately there's a little less money than last year, but you are still taking every dollar and using it wisely and making it stretch, and still your numbers are coming up, and that's really to be commended. And just my comment was on the billboards that you put out, I've already had a couple of residents comment to me on the Alice program and asking, what is the ALICE program? And I thought, wow, that's really good, and that's information that you'd want to hear. So again, great work. Thank you again, and keep going. I always look forward to hearing what's next. So with that, I will put the motion to the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, team, for all
Take
of
care.
that. And since we've got a little bit of time, I think we will take a break till 10:50. Come back then. Do you want to do the other two? Oh, just the communication items? Yeah, let's get through those. We'll do those real quickly. So I will look to Councillor Kowalski, 7.1, Rural Municipalities Alberta Contact Newsletter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, that the Rural Municipalities of Alberta Contact Newsletter be received for information as presented. Thank you.
Okay, questions, comments, council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And 7.2, I will look to Councillor Wiedemann, if you would put that on the floor, please.
That the FCM municipalities update be received for information as presented.
And I'll just make a comment on that. Of course, we are all heading to the FCM for Wednesday through Sunday. Looking forward to that. It's the first one that I've attended. I'm not sure who else, but there will be a lot of good information there. So with that, I call the question. All in favor? All right, motion carried. And we'll break till 10:50. Back to reconvene our meeting at 10:55. Only to go into closed session, I will read the proposed motion that the committee convene in closed session pursuant to Section 197 of the Municipal Government Act to meet in private to discuss matters protected from disclosure by Section 17 and 24 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. So I will look to to council for a motion on, call the motion. All in favor? All right, the motion is carried. We will now move into closed session. Thank you for all of those who are listening and in attendance. Okay. Don't wait for me, just get up there and have at her. from the forces, we apologize for making you wait. Just give us a couple of minutes to get back online. All right. Welcome back, everyone. It is 12:01. We're reconvening our meeting out of closed session, and the only motion that we made and voted on was to revert back to regular session. So with that, we are moving to, not sure what number this is, but to our RCMP, 4.6, thank you, RCMP quarterly update. And I will look to Mr. Cross for an introduction, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pleased to welcome our local RCMP team to our meeting this morning. They're here to provide the committee with an update with us today, and I'll have the gentleman take the presentation table here. We have Parkland Detachment Inspector Kevin McGilvery, Evansburg Sergeant Jeff Sutherland, and Drayton Valley Corporal Cam Turner. And they're going to run through some information with you and be pleased to answer any questions following their respective presentations.
All right, good afternoon now, gentlemen, and that really looks painful. Okay. Please go ahead when you are ready. Oh, how come it always does that?
Seems like I just saw you last month.
Looks like Parkland Detachment's up first. I think everybody in the room knows me. I'm Inspector Kevin McGilvery. I'm the Detachment Commander of Parkland Detachment. I brought our latest addition to our team, Staff Sergeant Brent Meyer. He's the last place he was in was Central Alberta District, but he's been all across the province here too. I think I'll give you, if you want to take the floor for a minute there, Brent, and give a little background on yourself.
Your Worship, and through you and to you, Brent Meyer again. I come from the Central Alberta District Office. I'm an Alberta kid, but I've worked in Slave Lake, Desmarais, Peace River, Fox Creek, Whitecourt, Valley View, many places. So happy to be working with Kevin right now at Parkland, and thank you for having me.
So I'll just get you to flip to the next screen there. So we're trying something a little new, and you can let me know if you like the PowerPoint or not. We took our first stab at it, but we thought it might be give you a little more details. Overall, we've included a bunch of our stats, and overall for Parkland County, we're actually looking fairly decent. When you look across the province and across the country, really, stats have increased dramatically in a lot of places, but Parkland County is seeing some pretty good numbers right now, even though it's gone up 5% and 7% for persons crimes and property crimes. It's good compared to a lot of places across the country. I'll just get you to flip to the second one there. This one breaks down, this is the stats sheet that you're used to seeing, and we've highlighted some of the stats off to the side there. I've got no major concerns with any of the stats coming out of Parkland Detachment. That first one you'll see extortion. When you see 100% increase, it gives you a little bit of a sticker shock there, but it's important to look not only at the percentage, but the actual number of stats as well. So I think in this case, last year we had 5, if I'm not mistaken, and it's gone to 10 this year. So even though it's a 100% increase, it means it's an extra 5 incidents. What extortion is typically scored as, a lot of those offenses are, there's a lot of different things taking place now with technology and everything else, and people that infiltrate some folks' social media sites and their email and everything else, they'll hack into those and get photos that, or get people to send them photos, thinking that they're sending them to somebody else, and then they'll blackmail them and ask for money, or else they're going to release that to their family members and their email list and everything. So that is an up-and-coming thing. So that's the increase there. One other stat that I wanted to point out there was the stolen goods. That's the possession of stolen property. as strange as it sounds, we actually want that number to come up. That means that we're catching people with stolen property. That's when we lay that charge. So if I was to look at the stat sheet, it went from 63 charges last year in the county to 104. So what that means is and this is just in the first quarter, we caught 104 people or laid 104 charges with possession of stolen property within the county. We'll maybe get you to flip to the next screen, please. These are sort of the same, these stats, nothing real concerning to me. The drug trafficking charges you see there, the possession and the trafficking, yes, they're up significantly, but it's sort of the similar scenario to the possession of stolen property. When we're laying more charges, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's more drug trafficking going on out there. It means that we're able to lay more charges. So we've had a real focus with our crime reduction unit this past year with both stolen property, and our drug unit's been targeting a lot of local traffickers as well. So that's why the increase in those. Go to the next. This just kind of is for interest's sake. It breaks down our break and enters within the county. You can see there that 22 break and enters to businesses, 2 to seasonal lots, and 17 were to residences. And just below that, you'll see that there were 6 where people gained entry through the garage. In some of our other jurisdictions, Stony Plain, Spruce Grove, other areas, that number is even a lot higher. So I just caution people, if you're, well, first of all, make sure you lock your person door on the side leading into your garage, because a lot of us forget to or don't lock the door leading from the garage inside the house. And if we forget to lock that door leading into the garage, then they have free entry into our house. So it's really important to keep both those doors locked. The other important thing is with your garage door opener in your vehicle. If, of course, it's used to open your own garage door, and if it's left in your vehicle in the driveway, and if you leave your vehicle unlocked, again, they've got free entry into your house. So that's a technique that we're really seeing now, is gaining entry through a person's garage. So just a reminder to everybody that's listening today to make sure that they are locking their garage up tight, and vehicles. Just get you to flip. Earlier, I forgot to mention it on one of the previous screens, but vehicle thefts are up across the country as well. You may have seen it. Edmonton released a press release here not too long ago, within the last month or two, about what's happening in the city of Edmonton. That's the same across the country, and the same that's happening out here. I used to sit, well, up till last quarter, I'd sit here and say we could focus on our prolific offenders and usually take care of those problems, because we've got intel officers in the prisons, and when they're released, our analyst is talking with them, and when those folks are being released, people are, some people's niche is stealing catalytic converters, others B&Es, others vehicle thefts. So depending on who's being released, we can usually see what's going to be increasing, and as soon as we see a vehicle thief being released from prison, and next thing you know, our vehicle thefts are going up, we'll put our crime reduction unit on that person, surveil them, and can usually catch them in the act within the week. Things are changing a little bit in that realm. We've, as you can see from some of our successes there, we've had great success with arresting a lot of our prolific offenders, but our vehicle thefts continue to rise. So there's a new trend across Canada with organized crime. Organized crime has historically focused on prostitution, drug trafficking, money laundering, these type of offenses, but they're getting into the stolen vehicle game. They're diversifying, I guess you could say. But they will come out to an area and steal 5 or 6 vehicles all at once, and they're on a shipping container to Africa within hours. And if you Google around tonight, and it's the equivalent to Kijiji here, In Africa, you can see all sorts of American-made vehicles over there, and some folks that have had their vehicles stolen can even see them on there, and their license plate is still on the vehicle. So it's a unique thing that's going on right now. There is a national response that they're putting together to address this, but some of the things that we're doing locally, and we have been doing, and I think I've probably talked to them about them in the past. We do the Lock It or Lose It initiative. We go out to different areas where a lot of vehicles congregate, and we'll put these tags on vehicles, just reminding people to not leave valuables within sight in the vehicle, put them in the trunk, or don't leave them in there at all. Make sure you lock your vehicle, don't have your keys in there, use an anti-theft device, that kind of thing. We also do the Operation Cold Start in the month of January. What's interesting for Parkland Detachment, in the month of January, we would send our members out first thing in the morning and check on idling vehicles in different areas. And if they had the keys in them, we'd call the registered owner and explain to them the number of vehicles that get stolen with the keys in. And during that month, 81% of our vehicles that were stolen at Parkland Detachment were idling with the keys in them. So pretty easy way to prevent a theft is to not leave your vehicle unattended with the keys in it. You know, there's so many of us now have Command Start. I think it's the best invention that's ever happened. You can warm your vehicle up in the winter and cool it down in the summer. And you know, understanding not everybody's able to put a Command Start in, maybe a more affordable route would be to get a anti-theft device for the steering wheel as well, is another good way to deter crime. Just get you to flip. Over the last couple of months, we've had discussions about different units. I think everybody here is aware of how our policing contract works. At Parkland Detachment, we've got a contract with the City of Spruce Grove, the Town of Stony Plain, and then our provincial component is through the province. Parkland County is one of our rural areas that has a contract with the province, and then we have a contract with the province. And so at Parkland Detachment, we combine all of our resources between Stony Spruce and our rural component, and we go and fight crime where needed. And we try to manage that as best we can and make sure everybody's getting their fair share of proactive policing as well. But I just wanted to highlight some of the extra work that we're pulling from units in K Division. So we sat down and just off the top of our head quickly jotted down a few units that we could remember that we utilized in the first, this is just in the first quarter of this year. We utilized the Forensic Identification Unit, the Police Dog Service, the Traffic Services, the Tactical Support Group, the Emergency Response Team, the RPAC team, I'll come back to that in a second, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Branch, the Interview Assistance Team, Major Crimes Unit, Integrated Child Exploitation, Auto Theft, and the Integrated Gang Enforcement Team. So those are all RCMP assets that we utilized outside of Parkland Detachment that came in to assist us in different ways. They've got specialized equipment and knowledge that we required, and they came out to help us. Then there's a few other units as well that helped us out from outside of our agency. Our crime reduction unit within Parkland Detachment partnered up with the FAST team. I'm not sure if you've heard of FAST. It's a new sheriff team. I think they've got 7 or 8 members, and it's the Fugitive Apprehension Sheriff Support Team. And their goal is to address or try to locate wanted people. And so their team partnered up with our crime reduction unit, and they went out for a week and had some great success apprehending some of our wanted people that were out on outstanding warrants. The Zebra Child and Youth Advocacy Center, that's where young folks go, young victims go to get interviewed. We worked with Alert, and we work with EPS almost daily, probably in Parkland Detachment, being bordering onto them, but certainly, and their air services are out here a couple times a week. And then a number of other partner agencies as well, the CPOs from all of our municipalities, the traffic sheriffs, Citizens on Patrol, Rural Crime Watch, Victim Services, Stony Plain and District Crime Prevention Association, and Crime Stoppers. Let's get you to flip. In the past, I've talked about the odd good news story or two, and I just wanted to add a photo this time to kind of get the point across of some of the work that our folks are doing. We've had some great success in the county over the last quarter, and this was at a chop shop in February that our crime reduction unit worked with the RCMP auto theft unit from K Division to take down, and they recovered about $90,000 worth of stolen property there. And you can see there they recovered a stolen skid steer, parts from 3 disassembled vehicles, a re-VINed truck, so they peeled as many VIN numbers off as they could and tried to re-VIN that, a trailer as well, and then that motor and transmission from a Ford Mustang. So some good work by our crime reduction unit and the auto theft unit. Let's get you to flip to the next. I've talked too about the body-worn cameras over the last while. Parkland Detachment was one of 7 detachments in the country and one of 3 in Alberta that was chosen to be part of the test phase. We had to go through a couple of test phases with different models, makes and models of these cameras. The last one started a few months ago now, February 8th. But I'm happy to say that it passed the test, and we will be settling on the Axon camera. Don't know if anybody's got one today, but there's a picture of it up there. So Parkland Detachment, Grand Prairie Detachment, and St. Paul Detachment will be keeping their cameras now and utilizing them from this point on as the rollout continues across the country. They've been great. I've preached about it before in different venues, you've probably heard, but great for gathering evidence. It's a great tool just to calm a situation. If the person we're dealing with and our officer both know that they're being audio and videotaped, it calms the situation on both sides. It holds the RCMP accountable and our members accountable. It helps us resolve public complaints quicker. So there's a lot of benefits to them. And we're seeing those benefits already, just using them in the short time. Let's get you to flip, please. There we go. These are some programs that I've talked about in the past. I just wanted to highlight them. I think they're important for all of the constituents to be reminded of and participate in if they are interested. Project Capture. So we've had Parkland Capture in the past. There's been Parkland Detachment and a couple other detachments have been on Capture for quite a while, but the rest of the province is now joined in as well. So you can either go to the website is there, ruralalbertacapture.ca, or you can still go to Parkland Capture too. They're moving the data from this website over to ours, so we're not losing anybody. Essentially what Capture is, it's a depository for us, or a place to collect video surveillance information. So essentially, if any of us have video surveillance on our private residences, you can sign up here, and it gives the RCMP access just to the address. So you're not putting your information out there to the public to view. It's only the RCMP can access this information, and it gives us a quick look to see where we might have video surveillance along a street if we've got an event that's been unfolding. If we've got an armed robbery in a certain area, rather than driving from farmyard to farmyard or house to house to see if there's any video surveillance available, we can quickly look on here, and anybody who had registered their cameras, we can give them a quick call to see if they've seen anything. We would still be doing neighborhood inquiries as time goes on, but this gives us right off the bat a quick access to some possible video footage. Just a reminder too, we haven't talked about this for a couple of years, but when we moved into our new office in Spruce Grove, we designated a couple of parking stalls there to the safe internet exchange zone. So it's a great place if you're selling something on Kijiji or on one of those sites and you're not comfortable meeting with this person at your residence or anywhere else. Feel free to come to our parking lot and do the exchange there. There's video surveillance there, and the odd police officer around within shouting distance. So I encourage anybody to utilize that. And it gets used quite a bit too for a safe place to exchange children during a custody dispute and that type of thing too. So certainly encourage people to use that as a safe zone. The Alberta RCMP have the mobile app. I encourage you to look at that and see what's available on there. The next one, the Alberta RCMP crime map. There is a link to it from the county website. It's an easy way to access it. It's a pretty neat, it gives you a good view of what's happening in your area. And I won't get into social media, but we all know that social media is a pretty easy way to spread stories, but they're not always truthful. So if you want to see what crimes have actually been reported in a specific area, it doesn't have every call, but it's got thefts and different things like that. Go to the Alberta RCMP crime map and you'll be able to see a 2-week snapshot of what's happened in your area in the last 2 weeks. And then the final one on this page is the Engrave It to Save It. This is the catalytic converter theft program that we initiated a year or so ago. We've seen great success with it. We've got a number of garages across our detachment area that are participating. They have been, we partnered with Rural Crime Watch, who provided all the engravers and the heat-resistant paint to these garages. And when people go into the garages to get work done, they will offer this service free of charge. They'll engrave your catalytic converter with your VIN number and then put heat-resistant paint on there to mark it so that if one of us were to pull them over, hopefully we can ID that and maybe get a charge out of that. It helps in a couple of different ways. When you etch into the metal, it devalues the metal. When you paint it, it devalues the metal. So these aren't getting as much money from the scrap yards when these are marked up. And I would hope that a scrap yard is not going to buy one that is marked up like that too. So just get you to flip that, please. I'll get through to you guys in a second. I didn't want to take all the time here. This one's really important. This is a new initiative. We've been working on this for a long time to get this up and running, but we now have our own Facebook page out for Parkland Detachment. It's kind of a long one to search, but it's Royal Canadian Mounted Police Alberta Parkland. We're trying to get that changed to make it something a little easier, but we've also created a QR code that we're going to be sending out through various comms departments with our partner agencies, and we've got some communication strategies developed to try to get that increased. I see the first line here, since March when we got it up and running, we've got now, as of when we printed this, 1,100, we're now over 1,200 people, but we're looking to increase our followers. And we're really trying to get 3 or 4 posts out each week. They're sending out crime prevention tips, good news stories, all sorts of stuff. So I really encourage everybody to follow us, share it with your friends. We're really trying to increase our viewership on there. We've also borrowed an RCMP member for a short term anyway, and we're hoping to keep her a little longer, but she's doing more of our StratCom stuff because we don't actually have a StratComs member dedicated in our detachment. It's a position that I'd love to see, but we've got one temporarily, and we're making good use of that. Hope you've seen more releases and stuff over the last little while. And the last one on that page, we've extended the front counter hours as well at Parkland Detachment into 6:30 in the evening. So just getting a bit better service to the public. Get you to flip. Just real quick, us RCMP officers, we all live in the communities that we police in too, and or a neighboring community at least, and we are part of those communities. We've got kids, we've got spouses that work here, and this is just a page to highlight some of the stuff that we're doing within the communities on our own time. We've got a number of RCMP employees that coach various youth sports in all of our communities. In this last quarter, we participated in the Red Dress Day, the emergency preparedness event, some of the spring cleanup stuff, the Ride for Mom, and countless other community events. When I met with you folks at a number of months ago now, but we went over the annual performance plan, and we met with a number of other stakeholders as well, and it came out loud and clear that we were looking for, our communities were looking for more police visibility. So within our annual performance plan this year, we've got goals in there for check stops, foot patrols, bike patrols, school visits. We've got a number of things in there. So what we've decided to do, we've got 38 schools within our detachment area. So we've got a lot of schools to try to be involved with, and we do rely a lot on our general duty members. But this year, because of the overwhelming need for police visibility, we've dedicated one member starting at the end of June here. He will be called a Youth Liaison Community Engagement Officer. And he's going to be ensuring that we meet all of our goals in our annual performance plan. So I anticipate, I hope, that over the coming months you'll see a lot more police visibility. And we'll be taking lots of photos and sharing them on our Facebook page there as well. So, but just in the last quarter, these are some of the events that they've been involved in. Some online awareness training for parents at 6 different schools in the library. Online safety for students, fraud awareness, kindergarten and daycare visits, and various community engagement events at different parks and public spaces. And we participated in Bell Let's Talk. We've been visiting some seniors in the senior homes. I saw some of you at the Battle of the Badges there in Spruce Grove, and a number of recruiting events as well. Let's get you to flip. Just, I thought there was one more page, but I see it didn't make it in this one. I just want to talk real quick about nationally our recruitment drives and sort of our numbers nationally and locally. There's been a huge push over the last year nationally for recruitment into the RCMP. I can say that I feel that we're a competitive organization now when it comes to wage and benefits, and we're seeing a lot of people switching from other police agencies to the RCMP. In fact, we just got our EPS member here within about 6 weeks ago. We've got another member coming from Fredericton Police Service, and then another one coming from Edmonton Police Service by the end of August. So not only laterals, but our recruitment is way up. Starting April 1st, we'll be putting 40 troops of 32 people each in each troop through depot, and next year they're aiming for 50 troops next year. So suffice to say, we are the Alberta RCMP. We are the Alberta Provincial Police Force, and we are committed to filling all of our positions that we have. Parkland Detachment, I can't speak for our other folks here, but Parkland Detachment, we're virtually full. We do have some soft vacancies because there's a little bit of a time frame if somebody has to sell a house and to get in, but I can't complain too much about how staffing is keeping us up to snuff with our resources. And all of these troops that they started pumping through starting in April, I really do believe that it's a 6-month training program. So starting in October, we should start to see the fruits of those labors. So I'm optimistic over the next year that we'll see some great advancements with that over the coming year or two. So I will leave it there. I'll pass it to my compadres here and then take questions after.
I don't know if I can compete with that. So, for Evansburg. There should have been a PowerPoint too, yeah. Maybe just the one made it into, but I still have the PowerPoint here with me. So, nope, it's all good. So going into the last quarter last year, our focus was still the same. It was working with the local crew units, which included Parkland and the WAD crew team, working on prolific offender checks, and being involved, getting back out into the community a bunch more. We had good success with it over the year with prolific offenders. We cracked down pretty good on them. We had 28 checks over the last quarter, which led to one guy going away. At present point, I think we have 5 of our prolific offenders are all currently in custody, which has taken a big chunk of time or crime out of our community, which has been nice. We've done a lot of work with Parkland, just in the fact that all of our criminals travel back and forth. It's very similar. And with their crew team, we were able to do up 4 recent charges for prolific offenders as well. Recently, we got into, I think it was about a month ago, we had 2 vehicles found out on a suspicious property, and with the help of Parkland, with Drayton Valley, Thorsby, and Edmonton Air Services, we were able to track down 2 stolen vehicles, arrest 4 out of there. We unfortunately lost 1 police car because they decided to ram one of our cars. The member didn't get hurt or anything. So there's been great cooperation between all the detachments in this area, which has been a big help. When we get into our current crime stats and trends, we have had a really good quarter. We're down overall in person crimes over 41%, which has been nice to see. There's been a big drop in year assaults. We went from 15 the year before down to 9. So the members have been out there, lots of education, working with the domestic violence families, and I think it's starting to show in the long run here. So that's been a good push. In regards to property crime, overall we're down 16%, which is nice. So that's a big win. We didn't move on theft of vehicles. It's 10 from the year before, 10 again this quarter around. The same push in our area is it's ATVs, off-road vehicles that are left in yards, especially with the summer cottages and stuff like that where people aren't around all the time, and they are unfortunately able to get there and grab them. This morning we actually had a good win. At 7 o'clock this morning, we had a guy break into 2 properties out in Seba Beach, and myself and the constable working today were able to grab him in the process, and he's now locked up in our cells. So it's the guys are working hard and they're out there, and we're starting to see those numbers go down. Our drug charges are up, which again is good. We've done lots of training with the RTU unit, which is our roving traffic unit, which specializes in enforcement with drugs out there on the highway. With that added training, I think we're over 200% increase in charges, and that's picking off guys on the highway that are transporting drugs into all the other communities in the surrounding area, sometimes ours, sometimes Edmonton. So that's been a big win for us down the road. We wanted to make a big push back into the communities. In Evansburg, I don't think we'd been in the communities for a while, so this past quarter, we started a skate with the kids, and we went out with the 3 different elementary schools and got out in the ice and skated with them, brought them down to the detachment, did tours with the detachment. It went over quite well with them. We're currently setting up a program called the White Hatter Program with a couple of the schools we're hoping. It's to provide education on social media, the internet, and how bad everything can go once photos and stuff get posted to the world. We're going to do some presentations we lined up during some of our consultations on the use of drugs within the schools. It won't be until the next fall, but we're just getting those lined up right now. Actually, something I want to thank everyone here. I don't think we brought up last time. So back in Christmas, we reached out to the RCMP Veterans Association, and we did a family in need over the Christmas time. So the veterans raised $800 and put an $800 food basket together. And then I had reached out to Jeff and asked if anybody here wanted to put in some money. And between him and our detachment, we raised $1,000 for a family that, without giving them away, definitely needed the help this year and made a big change in her life. So we got that going down this year, which went well, and I think the members were happy to be a part of something positive on that side of things, and we changed some kids' lives that day. I'm going to be working with the credit union to do a couple scam programs with the elderly this year. We've seen a little bit of an uptick with those phone calls that we've all been seeing there, that your niece, your nephew, somebody's in jail and you need to come bail them out. So we've got that set up. The credit union is going to work with us. We met with them during one of our last consults. So that's upcoming. Our big push this year with our AVP is going to be same idea as a lot of people, high visibility in our smaller communities. You know, Evansburg, Entwistle, and Wildwood gets a lot of our attention while we're working there. Some of our smaller areas, Fallis, Seba Beach, Batula, don't see us as often because they don't get as much crime out there. So right now, we're starting a tracking program for proactive patrols in that area. That doesn't count members responding to calls. It's simply being out there just on their own looking for stuff. So that'll include check stops, speed traps, anything like that, just to be seen within the community. We've started it already, and there's been a big increase. And that was part of why today Seba Beach worked out so well. Our member happened to be in the area or just outside the area when it went down. So that'll be our big focus. It's going to be the drug work within the schools is going to be our next one, and we're going to continue our work with prolific offenders. I got 2 new members that transferred in this year. One of them has past history with prolific offender management programs. So he's going to start and run one within our own office. He's already met with our probation officer to start setting up a better contact log with us so that we know who's in the area at what time. And he's recently reached out to our federal parole people and started building those relationships so that if someone's in custody and they're looking at early release, we can help provide a bigger picture to what this individual was living like before they got put into custody. We've had one example already of someone that was a major problem, and we've extended his stay in custody by 10 months now. So that'll be a big win. So that's where we're focusing today. You'll see us out in the community a lot more. We got a big parade coming up. I think we've got all the toys coming out from the RCMP. For Pembina Days, you're going to see our vehicles going to come out. We're going to have robots, drones, the Harleys, everything we can find that we can bring out.
Service dogs.
Yes. And that's where we sit right now. That's everything.
Those are some great stats. Thank you. Well,
Let's hope they keep going that way.
they do. All right, last but not least, Drayton.
No, I appreciate it. So my name's Corporal Cam Turner. I'm actually in charge of the plainclothes section, the GIS section in Drayton Valley. Currently acting sergeant in charge of ops for the detachment, but this was sort of dropped on me quasi last minute by my boss there, so just bear with me here a little bit. As far as Q4 stats, as you can sort of see, we're way down from Q3. We've got, I think I counted a total of 48 files total for our little portion of Parkland County, mainly Tomahawk. And as you can see, a lot of those files are mainly in traffic and collisions, and those are sort of ones that we can't do too much about, other than getting out there a little bit more, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But as far as the other offenses within Tomahawk sort of area there, most of them are way down. Specifically, I know that Parkland County put some effort into cleaning up a specific property in the Tomahawk area. I can tell you that that is a large part of this success, is that the people from that property moved into Drayton, and just as a ballpark, while these numbers are way down, Drayton Valley, the one family has given us 17 calls in this same span. So that it was a good job on your part in cleaning that up, I guess, we're now sort of trying to deal with different things and a little bit more resources within the town of Drayton Valley of dealing with those sorts of situations. So, apart from that, to echo everyone else, this year we're looking more into sort of the smaller communities. We know Tomahawk, again, like you said, because we don't get as much crime out there, we're not typically out there as much. We want to change that this year as part of our APP is getting out there and into the smaller communities. And what we've done is we've got a couple members, GD members that are assigned to specific communities to get out there certain times or a certain number of times per year and be visible, sort of speak to community members, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Lots of information to take in as always, and you're always hardworking, spread thin, and you just keep going. So I am going to look to Councillor Wiedemann to put the motion on the floor, if you will, and give some opening comments.
Yeah, that the RCMP quarterly update be received for information as presented. Question to Kevin. I seen you on the TV the other day about this, with regarding the scan unit. And how hard is it to get the scan unit in? And what do we have to do to get more action like that? Jeff knows we've got a problem property out by Capaswin. You guys all know it. I'd like to see the scan unit out there, but I'm not sure how hard it is.
Yeah, so just to give a little background on that, SCAN is the Safer Community and Neighborhood Unit from the sheriffs. So I just want to echo, because Parkland County's been, they've done this with a couple of properties. The RCMP we play one role in this whole entire thing. And there's a lot of other legislation that can be used when dealing with problem properties. And, you know, again, Parkland County has done a good job with a handful of these properties. Yes, it disperses them to other places, but I think as a collective group, we need to disperse them and they need to know that we're looking at them wherever they are. And I trust that Drayton Valley will do the same if they continue to cause problems. So there was a property in the city of Spruce Grove. It's not a fast process, as we all know, with a number of properties that we've seen in the county as well, but it is effective. And so we had, if I remember right, about 125 complaints at that residence in Spruce Grove over the last 4 years. Anything from mischief to drug trafficking to taking stolen property out of there. We've done some search warrants. We've got weapons out of there. A number of wanted people, and you could well imagine how the neighborhood felt about that residence. And so we had enough, so I guess to back up a little bit, with the scan unit, yes, we can make referrals and that sort of thing too, but the scan unit will take referrals from the public as well. And when the public goes directly to scan to make a report, that is a confidential report. They're not required to attend court or anything. The scan unit will do their work and try to build a case. And ultimately what their mandate is to get a court order to seize that residence for a period of 90 days. And if you saw our release on the news, I simply say, criminals have to understand there's different legislation and we don't put up with it. And if you're going to bring crime to our community, then we're taking your house. And if it's only 90 days, it's 90 days. But you continue committing crime, and we'll take it again.
Interesting.
Is it that hard once you get a referral to get them out there?
Just like any legal process, they have to have a good foundation. So I can say that one was a long process. So SCAN, and I can't speak specifically for SCAN, but I do know a bit about what they do. And so they actually had 4 investigations over a period of about 2 years, because they work with the homeowner as well, because ultimately we just want them to behave. And so SCAN worked with that particular homeowner, and there was some progress at times, and they would conclude their file, and then it would revert back. That happened 3 times, and then on the 4th time, there was no progress, and that's when they had enough grounds to take it to a judge to get a court order.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Oh, Sally, did you have a, okay, go ahead.
Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate your report. I think that when you came in before, you talked about how the criminals are back out on the street really quickly. And I'm just wondering, has there been any headway or any improvements to the system so that's not happening so quickly?
There's definitely progress being made. Is life perfect out there right now? No. We have a good working relationship with our Crown out in our area. And, you know, we've put other steps in place now. We've nominated, if you want to call it, a few of our prolific offenders that we consider our worst. And when we go to Crown, they're high on their priority list so that they know that these are problem people within our community. And that's helped us out a little bit with, because the volume is unreal with some of these guys. So in some cases, there has been, I've seen some changes towards the positive. It's just gonna take a while before I think we get to where we all wanna be. But the steps are going in the right direction with the Crown and the province and everything like that.
Just to add, I'm not sure, are you guys on pre-charge approval? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so we've just come into pre-charge approval as well. I'm not sure if you've heard of this process. They're rolling it out across the province. Parkland just came on within the last month or so, so it's new to us. Essentially, it may not sound good initially, but I think once we get rolled out and going, I think it'll be decent, so bear with me as I explain it. But essentially, when our investigators go out, our members go out and they investigate a crime, if they get the grounds to lay a charge, they gather all the evidence, they put it together, they now, instead of us laying the charge on that person, we now send all of our evidence to the Crown prosecutor, and they've got an office set up 24/7, I think, 24/7, and they will determine if a charge is going to be laid or not. So that no longer lies on the police's responsibility. And our hope, from a policing perspective, would be that if charges are approved by Crown in the first instance, that we are hoping that they will follow through and prosecute those in the end. There's been some pretty good stats. They've been doing it for a while across the province. We're just getting on to it now, but the initial stats are looking pretty good. They've got an increased rate of convictions, which is good. I believe it was, and Brent, you may know too, you may have heard these stats, but I think it was a 10, do you know the stats? No. I think it was a 10% reduction in the total number of charges that have been laid, but a 10% increase in the number of convictions that they're getting.
I just echo what Kevin said. Yeah, the conviction rate has drastically increased, and the 10% you mentioned were right on. You were asking for the stat. I wasn't sure what you were asking, but you nailed it.
That's very impressive. Going forward, just thinking about all that would free up a lot of your time, your officer's time. You're getting the Crown to do the charging, so they know the system, just a little bit, the legal part of it better. So that's very impressive. Let's hope it leads to more.
If I could just, and I'll explain a little further too. So yeah, so they approve the charges. We still lay the charge and put the court brief together and all that. But with their support, and they may come back and say, you know what, you're almost there, but you need to grab a statement here. You need to do so. Hopefully, those charges going forward are solid, and they'll be able to get those convictions in the end. But you're absolutely right. I think as we get, change is hard for everybody, but I think as we get into it, I think it will be a better process in the end. The only thing I think that some of our folks are dealing with, because when we arrest somebody, we've got 24 hours to speak to release. So what you will find now, and we've been doing it for a while too, but we will sometimes delay the release until we gather enough evidence, especially if there's things like blood to go to a lab or something like that. We may delay until we get those results back, then lay that charge, and then we can speak to bail right off the bat. But it does change things a little bit, but we're coping.
Well, efficient use of the system is always a good thing. Mayor Gamble, I believe you had some questions.
Sure, great. Certainly want to thank all of you gentlemen for coming in today and sharing the time with us. And Inspector McGilvery, we know that Parkland County, the region, has over 100,000 residents, and we know that that is supported by Parkland County. I did have the pleasure of seeing some of the statistics last night, and some of our urban partners are having greater challenges than we are, and it gives me great comfort that you're comfortable with the statistics within Parkland County, and we do appreciate the support that we receive from Drayton Valley and from the Evansburg detachments, and also the work that you do with our enforcement team. We really do appreciate the great relationship that we have in building on that. Also to see the proactive work that you're doing in programs like Capture, the effect that you're having in our school systems, I think goes a long way, and the presence and visibility that we're seeing in our hamlets like Wapman, we do appreciate that presence there. Again, this always comes back to the same thing, is as a resident, this isn't just your job, this is all of our work to ensure that we're doing our part to protect ourselves with respect to making sure your vehicles are locked or put away and your residences are protected as well. But it's equally important to understand that in order for the RCMP to respond, that we have to report and encourage our residents that one of the critical factors in success is that we report crime and continually put that out there, not on Facebook, but to report it to you so that you have the facts and the ability to react. And appreciate everything you do as our provincial police force, and we're looking forward to hosting a lunch with you today and sharing more information and asking questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Gamble. You reminded me of something when you were speaking of Wabamun. I think everybody in this room is aware, but Parkland Detachment appreciates the office space that's going to be becoming available at the former Wabamun Fire Hall. We'll have a member starting out there in about a week. June 11th, I think we're out there. So we'll have a constant presence out there. We'll see where we can build it into the future, but I'm looking forward to having even our first 1 or 2 members to be stationed out in there. So looking forward to it.
That is great news. We'll look forward to seeing some stats on that too and what it can do. Are there any other questions from council? All right, we look forward to having lunch with you. With that, thank you very much, gentlemen. And we have a motion on the floor. I will call the question. All in favor? All right, the motion is carried. With that, everyone, that brings our meeting to a conclusion. Thank you for being with us today. We will conclude at 12:52. All right. Now I think I'll give